Hey gang, Joyce Welsh, Skipping Calves Farms here. Um, the sun's just gone down below the horizon. It's been a full day. It's been an awesome day here on the property. And it's been a little while since we've done a kind of a walkabout just around the garden and some of my plantings. So here is my planting of 75 willows. And if you'll remember, if you had a chance to see that video, earlier on in the spring, we were having an infestation with a number of critters coming in and eating on the willows. There were the little black bugs, there were aphids, there were the orange beetles, and then there were a few situations where you'd have something kind of like this, and not quite like this because it actually looks like a spider, but a spider's there. But those leaves would be all closed up, and you'd peel them apart, and oh, here we go. And the leaves, when you peel them apart, would look like this. They'd be all eaten up, and there'd be a bunch of little tiny caterpillars in there. But here, I think this is kind of this is actually on the same plant. Maybe a little bit more susceptible than most of the others. But and then, as you'll recall, I said there's also a bunch of spiders that are getting up on those tips. See if I can get that to focus in better. I'm bending over and reaching out, so come on. There we go. And that's actually a spider. And there's quite a few spiders that have come in and taken over these willows. And this is my 75 willow range. Now, you can see that willow right there. That tip of that willow is well over 6 foot. And so these are just taken off like crazy with the rain that we've had in the last couple of weeks. And so there's an occasional situation where you've got a little bit of damage like that. But remember, gang, diversity is important. And so you can't get so worried about having everything picture perfect. You just want to balance it out. So there's no real damage to any of these willows. I don't know what those caterpillars are going to represent in terms of adult insects. They might be a very beneficial species. So you don't want to go killing everything. You just want to balance the damage on your plants. And when you do things like that kind of by hand, number one, that's kind of how nature is. We become our own predator on our own property. And this is my 25 willows. And that willow right up there, that's easily 9 or 10 foot tall. I don't know if you can see that. If I can scroll up there. Can you see the moon? I don't know if you can see the moon. There's the moon. Yeah, it's a little nanner moon. And so just been real pleased with how that's worked out. Now, later on in the season, I'm going to come back through, and all these little branches here on these willows down low, I'm going to be cutting those all back, because these were cuttings that started from just like a 2-inch stub coming out of the ground. Well, I want these to be pollard. So a pollard is going to be right about in the middle there. You can see where the bottom of that gray tarp is. Between the bottom of that gray tarp and silver tarp and the top of that silver tarp, that's where I'm going to be pollarding it. So I'm going to have a, essentially, I will be trimming for single trunk over the next growing seasons from there. But let's get on the right side of this high tensile, high voltage fence. Let's go look at the garden. I haven't had a chance to be in the garden since we've had our several days of good rain. So let's start over here with my herbs, and everything here looks pretty good. The banana peppers are a little bit yellowed out. That may just be because this corner of the garden I'm going to pan out over here is right here by the gate, and that gate is right here by the end of that truck box, and all the water on that truck box comes and drops, and that's only about 15 feet away. So it's been getting more than its fair share of rain the last week. So that yellowness should go away. And this soil over here has not been amended at all, but I'm real pleased because I just planted some cilantro seeds. Woohoo! Look, that cilantro is coming up, and that's coming up in basically the only thing about that soil that's been amended is it's been under, it's got the cardboard, and that cardboard's only been there for a little bit. So that is very, very encouraging, because that lets me know that there's earthworms in and around that soil. And even though it's tighter and not as loamy and doesn't have the fertility of some of the rest of the garden, it hasn't had the care either. But it's still heads and shoulders above the strawberry blonde that you see over here. So that's awesome. Oh, that's so exciting. So here we go. When I put my plants down, we were supposed to get some cool weather in about 4 or 5 days, and it ended up getting a lot colder than I expected, and I chose not to wait to put them out, although some other local folk did. And so as a result, instead of getting 5 or 6 plants out of everything, I basically got 1. And so here we've got my, I think this is an Athena cantaloupe. And but look, it's got blooms all over this blooming thing. And over here on this side is my okra. That okra has just exploded. It's over knee high already. Then of course we got this open space where I lost a number of plants and the seeds didn't come in. But that's okay. There's mulch down there. There's cardboard down there. No harm, no foul. And I planted all of this before I knew for sure I was going to have my sheep. And so it's probably a blessing in disguise, because my plate might have been just too full for me. And so we've got some cucumbers, and we've got some, I think they call this Carolina Gray watermelon. Oh my goodness, they are so good. Those are the great big ones. Well, I'm in my 60s. They're the great big ones with the stripes that we grew up with. And they're just the best tasting, best thumping watermelons in the world. And then here, I got a patch of squash. And we got some spaghetti squash coming up. And look at all the blooms kind of tucked in and hidden around. And some of the leaves are a little variegated and some of them aren't. But, oh, hey, look. here's one of the squash. I hadn't seen one before. Check this out, gang. Woohoo! That's awesome, awesome, awesome. So that's my Pescetti squash. And then back over here, we're back to my okra. I think one of these plants had a bloom on it. It did. And look, we've got little, if you're not from the South, then you may not appreciate okra, and that I can understand that, sort of. But look, I've got okra coming up already. And this particular variety, you can see there were like 4 or 5 fruit right there in the same spot. And it's a special variety of Clemson spineless. It's called Heavy Hitter. And when I got that last year and planted it, oh my goodness, Heavy Hitter was a very apt name, because I had more okra than you could shake a stick at. And let me see if I can reach down here. Isn't that flower just beautiful? Almost looks like it could be in a flower garden. And then let's move this branch. Let's see if we can get this booger to focus here. And what do we got? We got ourselves some acorn squash. Woohoo! I had to plant acorn squash. When I was growing up, that was one of the things that my mom always cooked. And she'd cut it in half, and she'd bake it in the oven, and she'd put some butter and brown sugar in the middle of it. And I can't think of acorn squash without thinking of my mom. Goodness gracious, she's been gone for 12 years now. It's hard to believe. So I've got my peppers over here are store-bought plants. And I am so glad. I think I finally figured out what's going on with my greenhouse. Because with the store-bought plants, they push them. You know, so like here's this pepper plant, and it was pushed, and it's got two big old peppers on it. But look how scraggly, that's the word I was looking for. Scraggly that is. They've got it tied up with a little piece of bamboo, but it's been pushed, and so it doesn't even hardly have any blooms on it for anything else coming up. So, and that's been my observation. You know, as I've learned more about plants and animals, their main objective is to live until tomorrow and to breed the next generation. End of story. And so when plants are stressed, they're going to go to seed. So the healthier your grass is going to get in your pasture, the longer and more grass you're going to be able to grow before you're going to get seed heads. So you're going to be able to double and triple and quadruple the amount of forage on your pastures, on your land, as you learn to observe your land and how it responds with your animals, and maximize that balance of animal performance. As Ian Michelin puts it, animal performance is the most important thing, because you want to stay on the land. If you're going to stay on the land, you got to have a job that pays you a decent wage. And that's what animal performance on your property is all about. And woohoo! I got my first orange tomato. Looky there. Hot diggity. And so, looks like I may be out here doing some tying up on things. Now this kind of scraggly tomato behind us was a volunteer left over from last year, and I didn't have the heart to pull it out. I wanted to find out and see what it was. And it looks like it's well, it's giving me little cherry tomatoes. I had several different varieties. We'll see what comes of it. Hey man, volunteers are a good thing. Now the tomatoes over on this side, I bought, again, wasn't the ones I was really looking for, but they call them, oh goodness, they call them mortgage busters or something like that. And my camera's looking straight out. Those are 5.5 foot T-posts. So the top of that T-post is at least 4 foot high. So these vines are at least 4 foot high all the way across. They've grown a foot easily in the last 2 weeks. And so that's exciting. Here's another volunteer. And look, that volunteer's got some little baby tomatoes on it too. Look at that. Look at that. That's so cute. Anyway, so, and then let's go back down this aisle, this row. Now these are the mortgage busters now on this side. And those tomatoes are still green. My friend AJ is going to be wanting some green fried tomatoes. I think I will be able to oblige. And look, these beans. Look at them. Look, there's hardly any bugs that have gotten these beans last year. Those bottom leaves were eaten up. Last year with the varieties I had that I purchased from outside the area, big heads up, gang. I bought those seeds. They were not locally acclimatized. These seeds I got from a friend, and they've been in her family for 150 years. And they are local. Now, do you think those look healthy? And look, they're just producing like crazy. Now, a lot of the local folk are real big on green beans. I'm not a huge green bean fan, but if you're gonna do green beans, you gotta do green beans right. So you reach in, you pinch it off with your thumb, right like that. And then you do this. Oh, this is good. It's sweet. It's almost like a cross between a green bean and a blade of grass. Because even though that bean pod was 6+ inches long, when these are mature, they'll easily be 8, 10, 12 inches. Another thing my friend told me, Kim said, you want to go ahead, and I was a little late on this, so that's part of the ugly part. But see that vine's grown way up above? But if you'll notice, come on camera. Well, you can notice it's been pinched. And she said the first time she planted them, her daddy got on her because he said, girl, you did not pinch the vines as they got up to the top of the trellis. And she said, no, but they all grew over on each other and it was so easy to pick. And he said, yeah, but you lost about half of your harvest because all of that energy went into growing those vines instead of growing those beans. Now what we got here, we got ourselves what I would always call a stink bug. It wasn't doing any damage, but I'm just going to toss it away. I won't kill it because I don't want to stink. I've been working hard all day. I stink enough. So, and then what do we got over here? Well, here we got our taters. This is my 3rd year of trying taters. So far, I've not gotten a crop. but they failed for different reasons in the last 2 years. And Lord willing, I'm going to have me a tater patch right here that going forward is going to give me all the taters I need. And I'm well on my way. I did a video previously showing how hard that soil was before it was amended in here, and how loamy it's starting to get. And when you get the rain that we got, and see that semi and see that truck box, all of that water comes and hits that top of the garden. And so it's a real balance. That's one of the reasons why I put that water trough at the end of the semi, and I put that garden hose attachment over here for the willows, because where it is on the willows, it's going to basically bypass the garden, just catch the lower end of the garden, and then go on down to those willows. At least that's the theory. So far, well, I won't say so good, but so far it's okay. Those are not local willows. They are actually designed for several climate zones away, colder. So we'll see how it handles the drier summer and the bugs down here. But that was an experiment, and that was a decision I made before I had as much information as I have now. So, you know, it's a progression. You can't get all the way. You can't get a home run all at once. Even if you hit a home run, you gotta touch first, second, and third base first. If you don't, you can get thrown out if somebody calls you on it. And so, you know, that's just some of the early singles and doubles that you try, and sometimes you try and steal a base and you get it, and sometimes you get thrown out. That's the name of the game. And that's how you develop skills. That's how you learn how to experiment. That's how you learn how to observe what's going on. That's how you learn how to interpret the changes that are going on, and how the changes in nature all affect each other, and they're always going to be different. But once you learn the principles, then even if you're off a little bit, you know, it's kind of like if you're in school and you only got one question on a test, you're either going to get 100 or 0. and those are tough. But if you've got a number of different options and you get 5 out of 10, well, that's 50%. You get 7 out of 10, that's a 70%, right? You follow me? So over time, as you learn how to observe, and you learn how to think, and you learn how your plants and animals operate on your property, with how you manage them with your family and your time commitments, then you're going to go from a 50% to 60% to 70% to an 80%. And when you get to that skill level of proper management of mimicking nature, guess who's making a good profit for you, for your time, and for your family? And that's just awesome or beyond words. So with that, gang, I'm going to sign off. Wishing you blessings for the day. And whatever you do, keep chasing the dream. If you like and subscribe, feel free.